This is the Speedmaster Meteorite Moonphase. So apart from having an iron meteorite dial, which is pretty rare for a Speedmaster, there have only been 3 other Speedmasters in Omega's back catalog that have had this dial material. But I think more exciting than that is the fact that on this Moonphase complication, the 2 small moon depictions there, those cabochon stones, those are actual pieces of lunar rock, which is so poetic for a Speedmaster, for the watch that was famous for going to the moon and being worn on the surface of the moon, or more broadly, the watch of choice of NASA for all manned space missions. So I think this is a really beautiful, interesting, complicated watch that I'm excited to share with you today. Thanks to Exquisite Timepieces for lending it in and making this video possible. Exquisite is my recommended Omega authorized dealer. They have a massive Omega selection. They carry up to 60 different luxury brands. So if you're shopping for a new watch, or maybe you want to trade in a watch on a new piece, definitely check them out. I've linked them below. Let's start with the size, 43 millimeters in case diameter. So it is a rather large watch. It's a little bit larger than a standard moon watch. So that might deter you, but the lug-to-lug distance is 48.6 millimeters, so I think very doable for a watch that's 43 millimeters wide. Now, the height is only 13.6, which is not too bad for a chronograph. This, however, does not have a rotor because it's a hand wind movement that is so beautiful and that you can view behind an exhibition crystal. 21 millimeters is the lug width, and this watch weighs about 155 grams on the bracelet. So pretty hefty, but not overly hefty. This is nothing like a heavy diver or a Seamaster, but it does have some substance to it. Now, the dial, let's talk about this. This is Meteorite, but it is treated Meteorite. So there's a dark PVD coating that deepens the color of this Widmanstätten pattern here, which I think, looks pretty good. I like the lighter tone Meteorite, and you can see that on a different color iteration that Omega is offering this watch in. However, this one is the darker version. Now let's talk about those moons. Again, that's so cool that these are made from actual moon meteorite. And what that is rock that originated on the moon that at some point was ejected violently into space by a massive meteor impact on the moon. It got caught in our Earth's gravity and eventually fell into the atmosphere. It survived the violent descent onto the surface of our planet, and then eventually was found. In its chemical composition, its mineral composition is compared to samples of moon rock that we've collected. We have hundreds of pounds of moon rock that we've brought home over multiple Apollo missions. So this is chemically compared, this meteorite is chemically compared to what we know comes from the moon. And so we can identify moon meteorite in that way. And so it's a very uncommon material. Less than 1% of all collected meteorite on the planet originates from our moon. We found less than 700 lunar meteorites to date all around the world. So it's a very rare material. And the fact that it's found here on the Moonphase, I think is just perfectly poetic. I think that's awesome. I love to see that here on this Meteorite Moonphase. Now, the hands and markers are white gold. The bezel is black ceramic. There is white enamel indexing. And then this crystal has dual layers of ARC. The crystal is flame fusion sapphire. So it's essentially made by melting the raw material under a high source of heat, an oxyhydrogen flame. And then the melted drops are collected in a cylinder, and they crystallize, they fuse together, and they form the sapphire crystal. So it's very hard, very scratch resistant with good clarity. Now let's talk about the movement. This is the 9914. This is a new caliber for Omega. It has 45 joules. It beats at 4 hertz or 28,800 beats every hour. It has 60 hours of power reserve, which I think is pretty respectable for a chronograph. This has a column wheel, this has a free sprung balance, this has a silicone hairspring, and it has a gorgeous arabesque finish pattern that spirals out from the balance. So although most of the movement you're looking at a main plate, I still think it's pretty sharp to view through this exhibition crystal. Now, there is a coaxial style escapement, which Omega is very much known for, and this is certified by the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology, or METAS. So this movement, it goes through 8 different tests, and that includes high levels of magnetic resistance. This is anti-magnetic to 15,000 Gauss. This is shock resistant, water resistant. This is tested for accuracy in multiple positions, 6 different positions at varying states of remaining power reserve. So in short, the testing is intense, and this is all done cased, cased up like this in front of the camera, unlike COSC testing, which is just the movement only. So I love the fact that this is METAS certified. I love the fact that we have a meteorite dial. I love the bit of moon rock on the face. And I like the complication here. You have the chronograph, you do have the date, and then you have the moon phase. So the way Omega has managed to incorporate all of that into this watch and still keep it fairly clean, I think is a good thing. Now, this watch retails for $18,000, and that is quite a bit for a steel watch. Why so much? Well, partly because it's complicated, partly because it has a new movement, and then partly because it has a meteorite dial. But I think the big contributing factor is those 2 small bits of lunar meteorite, that very rare rock that there's just not a lot of on the Earth. So that's why it's $18,000 full retail. Let me tell you what I'd like to see in the future, because this watch, I recognize it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants a 43 millimeter watch. Not everybody wants a highly complicated piece with a moon phase and a chronograph and a pointer date. And not everybody wants a bit of moon rock on their wrist, but they like the idea of what this represents. So I'd like to see just a standard Speedmaster Professional, stainless steel, not complicated, nothing extra fancy, not a highly limited edition, but with just a simple meteorite dial. I think that would be awesome. I'd be first in line for that. Because Omega really hasn't made very many meteorite dials over the years. They did one in 2010 for the Apollo Soyuz celebration, the anniversary of that mission. That was a roughly 2,000 piece limited edition. It was stainless steel, pretty close to what I'm describing, but that trades for $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 now. They have done a current production Gray Side of the Moon. A lot of people don't like ceramic. That one retails for $18,000, the same as this. So kind of a limited market there. And then lastly, they did a meteorite subdial on a platinum version that was about 70 grand on leather or 100 grand on a bracelet. So again, pretty prohibitive for the masses. I just want a watch for the masses that has meteorite. They're doing that with the Constellation right now. Do it with the Speedmaster. I think that would be awesome. That would be an excellent addition to this Speedmaster Meteorite Moonphase, which I really like, but again, recognize that it's made for a smaller group of collectors and not necessarily the wider Speedmaster fan. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching today. Reach out with questions. Check out Exquisite Timepieces, and I'll see you next time.